What's up, my YouTube family? Sergeant Greybeard back with another Division video. Today is Monday, May 24th, and as always, I hope this message finds you healthy and safe. So as I start off today, I'd like to mention a few things real quick. First of all, there is going to be no exclusive information in regards to what we may be able to expect with the Division universe. Trust me, I had 1,000 questions, but I know at this point certain things can't be answered. I would also like to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible support in regards to this series. I apologize for the quality of the audio. I'm still in the learning process of this interview format, so again, your patience in regards to that is sincerely appreciated. With that being said, my friends, we're going to jump right into it. This is my conversation with Trick Dempsey. So my first and only guest today is an expert game designer over at Massive Entertainment. She is known throughout the Division community as not only someone from the state of the game, but also her interaction with players as well. Trick Dempsey, it is an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
It's good to be back.
No,
or for the first time.
Well, no, you said, okay, so we're going to start with this. I wanted to mention this right out of the gate. You were gracious enough to speak with me earlier in the week. And unfortunately, I had some audio issues on my end, nothing recorded properly. It was such an awful feeling. And the fact that you have the willingness to come back, speak with me again, in my opinion, just shows how much you love this community and your dedication to the game and the players. So again, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I was so sad because it was just such a great opportunity to talk to people and to participate in the loving of this game. Mm-hmm. I guess is probably the best way to put that. I'm certain there was a poet out there that's just cringed, but
no, I think it was.
I wanted to be back.
Very eloquent.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was the worst, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, did this really happen? Did I just do that to her? And like, do I have to, it was, so lesson learned. I have it recording on 19 different devices now. So nothing, yeah, we're totally good to go. We're totally good to go. My first question, I guess, for you today is, I know a lot of people out there are wondering what exactly, and it's kind of a generalized question, but what exactly does an expert game designer do?
So there are kind of two ways to get to expert. One is to become like the best person in a field or the best person around on a particular issue. So somebody could become the best material renderer expert in the world, essentially, or in Sweden or in Europe, and they would be an expert. They would be an expert rendering engineer, I guess, at that point. And then there's sort of what I've done, which is I've done so many jobs and so many different kinds of design and not like particularly failed at any of them to just have a wide enough breadth of knowledge to become an expert, to have hit that tier where I've been in this game for so long that I've become super senior and I'm expert by the manner of being kind of a jack of all trades. I became a bard. Funny considering where I started, but I'm a bard again.
Well, we'll get into that as well, because I know a lot of, I know a lot of people obviously want to know how you got into this, but going back to real quick in regards to what you do now, can you kind of walk us through in a way like a day, that a typical day for you or something like that, or what typically happens?
So like a typical day is going to be really hard to categorize because it heavily depends on the phase of development that we're in. So like if we are in a stage where we're doing a lot of prototyping, I might start the day with coffee always, and then have a couple of meetings. I have a really, oh God, let's get into it. I have a really particular way I like to run a morning meeting. It's a bastardization of something that's an agile or scrum. Where everyone who's on a team, but like a small team, like, oh, this tops out at like 10 people.
Got it.
Stands up and says, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I'm planning to do today, and here's what's blocking me or that I need to discuss. Because that's a really great thing to literally have in like the opening hour of your day or like in the start of hour 2 of your day.
Right.
To get stuff started right. And then that's, honest to God, the only consistent structure in my life other than lunch.
Everything else is as it comes at you. I mean, that's why you've attained the success that you've had. As it comes at you, you're like, okay, here's how we pivot here. Here's how we do this and things like that.
Yeah, I might be hopping into the editor and building a prototype for a level. I might be making educational videos for other members of the team. I might be playing through every single mission in the entire game and recording it and then making notes time stamped about when objectives were displayed incorrectly, and then do that twice.
Wow.
During the course of the project. A thing that really happened and is like hundreds of hours of work to do. And it's strange because sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to dive deep into a talent tree to figure out how to sync the server and the client better so that we can optimize and fix some bug. Or sometimes it'll be the really broad stuff. Hey, I'm gonna go to a series of lectures from other game designers, and I'm going to write notes, and then I'm going to send those notes to the team because most people aren't going to have the time to sit through 8 hours of lectures on how to run a live service.
Right. And I think so many times people have this misconception where they think it's a click of a button, or, you know, if something needs to be changed or something needs to be developed, it's a simple task. And there are so many different things that go into it. It absolutely amazes me. Like, it really, really does.
I'm always fascinated by, like, when you look at a game from the outside, even when I look at a game from the outside, and I know a lot of the production techniques and the mechanical techniques that people use to make a game go, I will sometimes go, oh, I bet that's the click of a button. I bet you fill out a field in a box somewhere. And then you find out, no, that was hard coded. And so that was done with dark sorcery and everything's fake. So it's pretty wild. And sometimes, like, on a game as big as The Division or as big as Defiance or as big as Red Dead, like all of those things were like, sometimes you find out that, like, it's the deep lore. You've slipped into the antediluvian madness in order to figure out how to do a thing, because it's just held together with hopes and prayers, and that the hope that nobody will ever change this one value because it's just a magic value now.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And actually, you're bringing up those other games. I want to get into previous games you've worked on as well. But I guess a segue into that is, how did you get into this? Like, what was it, something you always knew you wanted to get into, or how did this, like, journey begin for you?
So, like, as a kid, I wanted to be a game designer. Like, actually, I would say that I probably wanted to be a game designer since I played the original Legend of Zelda. And then I figured, I'm not allowed to become a game designer. That's not a real job. That's not a thing you can do in Dallas, Texas. Look, child me did not know that id or 3D Realms or Gearbox or Ensemble Studios were all just literally like a few blocks from my house. But instead, like, I grew up and I became a theater kid. Like,
nice.
I went into theater. I was doing stage combat and dancing and musical theater and all of that stuff. And I found that it was easier to make ends meet by also doing backstage work, and began the process of becoming an equity stage manager, an actor's equity stage manager. And while I was doing that, I found that I had taken courses in my undergraduate work on costume design and set design and stagecraft. And so I found myself doing set construction and set design and costume design and fight direction and all that kind of stuff. And then one day I was like, you know what, I'm working on this overly complex set for Charlotte's Web at a children's theater. And I go, you know what, I'm having hell of a time graphing this out. I'm going to open up 3D Studio Max, which I know how to use, and I've got a student edition of, and I'm going to model it there. And I went, you know what, I like doing this. There was this, God, I can't even remember what website it was on, but there was this Joan of Arc tutorial, box modeling tutorial. Start with a cube and model Joan of Arc, that I followed just on a whim. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a fucking game designer.
This is, and it seems like the segue was really just natural. It was just something, because of your experience, theater and design, it just seemed like it was just a natural fit for you to get into that.
Yeah. And then I went to the Guildhall at SMU, which had started, I think, only 2 or 3 years before. At that point, I was in the fifth cohort, the fifth graduating class, although I graduated 7th because life stuff happened.
Yeah, always does.
Yeah. And that was an extremely expensive investment. I kind of don't recommend it for Americans to pay for a postgraduate work to get into game design as a trade school, just because it's vastly more expensive than than gets paid back. Yeah, overseas there's a lot of subsidies, or just public schools are really good. And so, like, that's a different story. At the same time, those classes were stellar. They got me an internship They arguably landed me a job, although maybe it was the sheer chutzpah of my business card being the royals from several decks of cards with hand scrawled notes of my business information
Very
on them
well
along
done.
the margins.
Very
People
well
remembered
done.
it. I was like, hi, I'm Trick Dempsey. Here's my card. And they were like, I see. There's a theme.
Right. I like it. I like it. That's fantastic. And what, really quick before we move on, what advice, because you touched on something as far as, your background in regards to education and what you've done, what advice would you like to give, let's say someone just starting off who's trying to get down this path?
The thing you have to do is, honestly, like, everybody wants to look for essentially a proof of work, but it's just a portfolio, like just a thing to show to people to say, here's something that I made. But more than that, what you need to say is, here's something that I've made with a team. Because game development, unless you're a very small number of human beings ever in like modern history, is a group effort.
Right.
And even people who do solo games, they are being supported by their families often, and things like that. And so, in essence, the keeping you alive and housed falls often into the people around you and the community around
having
you.
That support system, having that, right?
Yeah. And so, like, get a group of like-minded people who want to make something simple, clone a game or mod a game, and just show that you can do it. Show that you can make a networked version of Tetris with your friends. Show that you can make a real-time strategy game that is just Command and Conquer, or do some bonkers abstract thing. Show that you can make people cry with cubes.
Right.
Because like, anything at all that shows that you can work with other people and finish a project, even if the project itself, like the end result, doesn't look good, although if it looks good,
obviously that's
you write your own ticket. Yeah. You've shown, hey, I can work with a team. I'm not a prima donna. I'm very good at what I do. Let me work with you.
Nice.
You'll have to have, the basics of whatever your field is. If you're in game design, do some stuff in Unreal, or in Unity. Unity's free. Hell, people come in with RPG Maker stuff and Game Maker stuff, like, whatever, they're great. If you want to do VFX or rendering, make some VFX in any tool available, and just do it. Especially, oh my god, if you can load it onto a phone and someone can play it, amazing. Absolutely.
So you
do that.
Have it on you and go, oh, check out what I did, and just
and at worst, a media player on your phone, record a video, use stock footage from freesounds.org to make a soundtrack to it, and just make a bad trailer. It doesn't even have to be good, just to show, here's some work I did.
Here's something I've done. And more importantly, like you said, here's something I've collaborated with other people on, and we've created this together.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Would you mind going over some of the previous titles that you've worked on in the past and kind of what you did in that capacity? And we'll get into division stuff, obviously, in a second, but what other things have you worked on previously?
So like the big ticket that people hear, like, so I worked on Brothers in Arms, which is phenomenal series. I'm sad that there isn't a third one. I worked on Hell's Highway. The section of the war that my grandfather actually fought in.
Wow.
From there, I worked at Ignition Entertainment on the deeply doomed and cursed title Reich. Moved on to Rockstar, where I worked on Red Dead Redemption, where I made 11 of the missions. I was the mission designer on 11 of those.
That's amazing. And to this day, still one of my top games of all time. Absolutely amazing game.
It's phenomenal. And it is such a different working environment. I mean, there was a lot of stuff there. There was a lot of stuff there. But like, from going from Gearbox to Rockstar to eventually Tryon, and eventually now to Massive, even studios that make big games all have entirely different processes and tools. And it's weird to overstate how, like, you cannot overstate how important it is to be able to adapt the tool sets that you're provided.
Right.
And be able to think on your feet when it comes to, I don't know a thing, but I'm going to be clear that I don't know it, and then figure it out and come back.
Right.
Like, the best managers in this industry, the best producers in this industry, you go, hey, this is the scale of this unknown, and that is why I cannot provide time on how long it will take me to do a thing. I can provide an estimate in blank days, and providing an estimate isn't something you provide an estimate for.
Right.
And that sounds like utter madness, and you're not wrong.
But it makes sense though. In that situation, that does make sense.
But yeah, from Rockstar, worked on Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto 5, Max Payne 3, and from there went to Defiance. So I worked at Tryon Worlds on what was called at the time the sci-fi action MMO SAM. So the word SAM appears in like a lot of the terms there.
Right.
And worked on that. Became the started as combat designer. Became the lead narrative person. So then managed our writers and our voice recordings for all of our actors.
Wow.
Worked with the television show to coordinate all of our events with each other. So that's working with like it's funny. NBC rolls deep. They show up and it's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna have a short meeting, a little meeting, and then you turn on the web camera and there's like 30 people on the other side of the screen. You're like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, they bring that. There's no. Yeah, they come to play. They're ready.
Yeah, they're ready. Their assistants have assistants. That they own a city. Universal City is out there. Yeah. They just own it. You go to a meeting at Universal City and you're
when
like,
they say it's our
Jesus.
town, they mean this is literally our town. Like,
yeah, legally we own it.
Yes, exactly.
The police department here, it belongs to us.
It does. We have a mayor of Universal City. Just putting that out there. Let's delve into this. So, as a gamer at heart, what is it, in your opinion, about the Division that sets it apart from other games that you've played in the past or are currently playing? Like, what is it about this game that you think just draws so many people to it?
So, like, to me, it's got at its core the same fantasy as the original Star Wars and Harry Potter. Somebody shows up, be them a hermit from the desert or a weird giant that rides a motorcycle and says, "You're a wizard, Luke Skywalker." And suddenly your whole life has changed. And that fantasy for the agents is, you know what? I haven't been secretly training for years to become the ultimate badass, but you know what? The call has gone out. My watch went off. I have secretly been training. I'm a ninja.
Right.
And it's time for me to go to work. And so it's like, today this happened. Like the call went out and suddenly I drop everything in the world. I don't care about my job anymore. I don't care about my other attachments. Suddenly my only love is the American people as an aggregate, and I am here to save them.
This is my hyper focus. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
Yes. And that is that same heroes calling fantasy, but taken into today. You don't have to add fantasy elements to it.
Right.
Like what's interesting to me is like, I love that when in the cosplay community, it's actually really, okay, I've put together a modern tactical outfit in the past, and it's expensive and it's hard to do.
It's no joke.
It's a hell of a lot easier than doing, the lady on the cover of EverQuest 2. And you just need to make, if I can get the watch, which I can do super on the cheap, I can buy a Casio, I can make sure the camera doesn't focus on it, and I can get some lights to make a ring on it, and then I could probably have to buy or fabricate the antenna, the radio box. But then once I've got that, I can be in anything, and I can cosplay this, and I can imagine having that just stored in my house.
Yeah.
Like, as people may have noticed in some previous live stream, I've got a wall covered in weapons.
Oh no, you see it. It's amazing. And I think one thing too, that it draws such, it can be anyone. It can be the person who, works at the market. It could be the person who delivers groceries. It could be any single person you come in contact with on a daily basis. They could be one of those sleeping agents. And I think that's the attraction of everything about this.
I like, it's such a strange thing. I'm going to push a several years old video series at this point, but the Agent Origins series on YouTube, I think there's I can't remember whether it's a Corridor Digital or a rocket jump video, where these two dudes are fantasizing about being cool military guys, and then the wife of one of them, or girlfriend, I can't remember what the thing is an agent. And gets activated mid conversation and beats up a cleaner and goes off to work, to save the world.
That's awesome. See, it's such an amazing universe. I love it.
It's so good. It's something that I to some degree miss about Division 2 is because Division 2 is 6 months later. And so if you go, oh, I want to be in Division 2, I want to be my agent in Division 2, you have to ask yourself, what did I do for that 6 months?
Right. There is
As
that,
opposed
what's
to
been going on exactly during this time. Like, what is my backstory? And I think that's one thing I hear from so many people is the lore of this game. That's what just keeps people coming back for more and more and more.
I mean, it's so weird to research for this game because you have to research some really grim stuff. Like you have to go, oh, okay, what is the difference in response from Operation Dark Winter simulation to the EMP scenarios of 2004 and 2008,
Right.
and all of these other Pentagon reports that are sometimes heavily redacted of like, what is it like when the world goes to shit? And you go, wow, boy, there are a whole bunch of scenarios where it's like, nope, 90% of humanity's dead.
Right.
And smallpox, with a few generous caveats, is one of those. And it's wild. And then particularly to be working on this during the pandemic.
Yeah, that was quite a, I don't even know really what to say to that, but yes, I mean, it was quite the timing of this game and just everything going on and just the whole thing.
It's nice to have something I like about the team is that if you work on a thing and you go, this doesn't happen often. And maybe it's just because I'm a beautiful, fragile child. But it's just like, you know what? I did a lot of research today. I saw a lot of horrible shit. I have to go for a walk in the park and I'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, you need that minute because it's, you need that disconnect. It can get very, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then the next day you're like, I'm going to work on Shade Tech. And the Shade Tech stuff is just wizardry. This is just magic.
Right.
We try to make it realistic, but it's sorcery.
Yeah, and there's amazing stuff in there. Like it's just unbelievable. And on that note, you know, when obviously one of the main reasons we're speaking today is because of the Division community and because of whether it's obviously the gamers, cosplay, virtual photography, things like that. And it's brought so many people together. And when you think of the world that you've created and how it's done that, how is that something that you go into your work with, you know, on a daily basis or as you create things?
I feel like a great responsibility. Like I've been a storyteller. You heard my history, and like a storytelling is always to some degree didactic. It is always teaching. There are values embedded in anything that we do, and there are values embedded in the verbs that we provide players with. Primarily, the Division is dominated by kill and loot. It is a looter shooter. That is the genre that it is in. It could be called Diablo, but with guns. And those aren't like good guy verbs. Those aren't things that good people do. Even inside of the most sort of generous read. And so we have to be, one of the major focuses that we had during Division 2 that we took very seriously is going from, hey, we need all of our actions to be pushed by pro-social behaviors. You need to be trying to build communities. You need to be helping people as much as like, so the mission statement of the Division is to preserve the continuity of government, a sentence which I'm not entirely sure is in Division 2 anywhere, because that's a really grim thing to say about an empire. And so instead we make certain, hey, here are these people. They are trying to build something on the rubble of their destroyed community. Can you help them? Here's how you can help them. Now you're going to help them by killing like 100 other people because video games, but at least the justification,
building, gaining back that community and things like that.
Yeah, like it's sort of a message of love thy neighbor, except you do it with extreme prejudice.
Right.
And so like that is the responsibility that I feel is that we've got. Like, I want to teach people that, like, that's why the shepherd system exists. The shepherd system exists to go like, hey, you know what? Here's the weird thing. Here are a bunch of virtual people in need. Meet the virtual people. Hey, the other players can go, I'm a person in need right now, and I'm a real person, and I'm having trouble beating this level. Can you come help me?
I love that. I love that. And real quick, I speak to so many gamers out there. That is their favorite aspect of the game, is the shepherding system, especially for players who are just starting off. They're struggling, let's say, from going to, let's say, hard to challenge, whatever it may be. The fact that they can call someone who's just completely just stacked out. They'll come in and help, and the call gets answered. To me, is exactly what this game is about.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like we always have this tug of war to like expand the system and make it bigger. And I do like I have that urge. I have that urge to to make it have like a whole progression system. But the weird thing is, once again, going as the, you know what, I'm a teacher in a sense. I have to be careful to not go like, if I incentivize every activity inside of the game, nothing is done from generosity. Nothing is done from a spirit of giving. It's only given.
It's coming from the place of, ooh, I want to get. Let me get. And if I can get this by helping this person, then I'm going to do it. But what you're describing, and with the shepherding system, it's I'm doing this to help you out. I'm doing this to be there as backup to help you accomplish whatever you may be trying to do.
Yeah, and so it makes me like, I as a game designer want to go like, oh, I should make the perfect system. If I can make the perfect system with the right balance, it will be perfect in every way. And then go, wait, no, I'm trying to encourage people to be nice to each other, and I want them to do it without expecting something in return.
Except for the action itself. And that's something, I never really thought of the term responsibility when it came to designing. And to hear you say that, it's like, how could I have not have thought, like, how did I not think of that as being such a major role in game design? From everything you've said so far and how I look at the game, and let's put the shepherding system aside, but when I look at how missions are set up, how bounties are set up, how control points, whatever it may be, it's designed so you can come in, you play for a while, you're doing your thing, you're helping people out, you're getting loot that you may be looking for. And then it seems that, when you talk about wanting to be responsible with the style of game that you're creating, you've created an environment that players can come in, play an hour or two, and just feel great about it.
Yeah. Oh, this is actually super important, is the idea that activities come to an end, and they come to a predictable and ready end. So like our game is subdivided into essentially 15-minute segments. And so sometimes a mission is 2 segments. A control point is 1 segment. Tidal basin is 4 segments, for example, unless you're speed running. And that actually like highlights some problems. Like to some degree, Summit, when you complete a boss floor, does not do a good enough job of showing you the door. And I guess the same could be said, like my favorite thing to do in the game, period, like as far as like I'm just sitting down to have raw fun, is to matchmake a bounty once, and then as soon as I'm in someone else's world, the moment we complete a bounty, we start a new one. And we just do them forever until everyone's out of bounties. That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's a lot of fun, though. That's a lot of fun to do.
Hands down my favorite like actual activity. And I'm glad we didn't try to lock people into it for a certain number of times. But I also kind of wish that we'd sat there and gone, you've done 3 bounties with this group. Here's your bonus reward. You won't get another one until you group with someone else.
Right. I got you.
So that you would have this incentive to go, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm getting hungry. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom. Maybe I should hug my family.
Let's take that break. And I can say, there are times when I will play this game and get so caught up in it where I look down, I'm like, I've been sitting, my watch every, 50 minutes is like, it's time to stand. I'm like, shut up. But I will see 4 hours, 5 hours have gone by. And I'm like, how did that happen? It's amazing how drawn you can get into this world sometimes. So we spoke earlier about, as a gamer at heart, what you love about this game, all this stuff. Because you are a person designing this game, as a gamer at heart, at the core of that, how tough is it for you not to talk about what you're currently working on? There are so many things that are out right now in regards to leaks and this and that and all this stuff. How hard is it for you not to want to let everyone know what's actually happening?
So, like, I really care about our games. And now I've worked with, people at Red Storm, people at Barcelona, Bucharest, at all sorts of different studios sort of all across the world. And I want them all to succeed because I love them in my heart of hearts. I want my friends to do well. And so like, I want to not just crow about my own game, but other games that are in the pipeline or other pieces of content. And it's really tough. Like one of the things that made that transition that I talked about earlier of going from I'm making models for stagecraft to I'm going to make, video games. I'm going to get a degree in level design, a thing that I have, is that like I can't remember if it was like a Half-Life, like one of the Half-Life 2 development videos or levels or something, where I saw a Greybox for the first time. And I was like, oh. And I think it was showing how the cover-based AI of the squatty baddies in Half-Life or Half-Life 2 worked.
And really quick, can you explain for people who may not know what a Greybox is? Like, what are you referring to when you say that?
So Greybox is an often hideous, actually, okay, I think that they have a certain beauty to them. But you'll, if you ever find development videos of it's a space where world art does not exist. And essentially all of the art assets in the game are normally bold shapes with measurements on them so that you can tell scale. And oftentimes the enemies inside of these spaces will be like, they'll look like somebody who's prepared for a VFX reel. Like there's somebody wearing a green full bodysuit.
Right.
Although, sometimes it'll just be the high rendered characters. And it's where you go to test things because you know that there's no big performance impact going on. Everything in the entire game world has the same texture. So there's no memory budgets that are going to cause a problem. So you can spawn all the characters into it that you want. And it's where you go to test things.
Right.
And oftentimes, like from a tools development standpoint, there are going to be there are going to be tons of Greyboxes built for your game that'll have things like, here are the combat ranges that are good for SMGs and shotguns. Spawn some enemies in them. Here's a button on the wall you can shoot because shooting's easier than walking over and interacting with them.
Got it.
In order to make things happen inside of a space. And that'll be like, I've set up dozens of these for Division 2. Like there's one that's just like, I want to do a large squad of this faction enemies on this mission difficulty. Press a button, boom, here they go. I want 3 waves of those.
Got it.
And I want to see what comes out of that. And then some debug output and shooting a bunch of guys with a cheat gun that kills them instantly. And like seeing that stuff, seeing the tools of game development is what made me go, you know what? I'm sitting here doing a 3D model for a children's show, but I can do that. And I can make, and I want to be able to make more than that. And it really worries me that, in the last 10 years, I haven't seen a big company do that. Like when I was in college, so what I find funny is like Hollywood movies still do this. They'll show people with the green screens and nobody goes, a trash movie doesn't know what it's doing. Look at that set.
Yeah.
And yet, like, I can't remember what it is. There's essentially a famous story in gaming PR in which some big company showed their in development stuff and got trashed for it, and their game underperformed after that, and everybody blamed it on showing development footage. And as such, people do not show development footage anymore.
Right. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's sometimes like feedback is correct. Like very famously, Elder Scrolls Online was originally showed at E3 and it was just WoW. It looked like WoW. It played like WoW. And everyone was like, I came here to play fucking Skyrim, the MMO. And I would note, I play Elder Scrolls Online right now. It's basically Skyrim, the MMO. Not quite, obviously, it's an MMO, but it captures that feeling. My wife and I, who have been lifelong fans of Elder Scrolls, I got my first Elder Scrolls game in '96 when I got Daggerfall. Like, sometimes you show a game to the populace at large and it's in development and they go, this is not what I was promised. And you're like, oh shit, we have to go back to the drawing board on some stuff.
We got to start this all over again.
Oh no, tear it all down. But then sometimes people are like, the run animation looks a little dumb, to which it's like, fuck you. You're seeing something in development.
Like, seriously, right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just like, yo, the 3 C's, as we call it. Yeah, we know those are going to be rough. It's in development. And so it's like, it's weird. I have a very different, like, I come to a strong disagreement with a lot of my coworkers because I am considerably less anti-leak than the rest of my organization. I came from being inspired by seeing leaked footage of things. That's what got me into it. I think that the community that sees those things and goes, oh wait, I can do that, are the people who are going to be developing games in the next few years.
That's a really great point. That's a really great point. We need
young, excited people who want to come in and do good. That's why I'm also glad to see so many gaming periodicals, touching politics and talking about the artistic meaning of games and the political messages of games and stuff like that, because those are all true and real. And I want the people who come into games to be thinking about those and think about, what are we saying? Are we building on a harmful stereotype?
That's so important. And I think so many times people don't realize what a huge platform gaming actually has and how it can be used to educate people on certain things.
That's getting back to the hey, maybe we have a moral responsibility to be a little better.
Right, exactly. Well, let's try to be responsible with the things we're actually creating and the universe that we're doing.
Right, exactly.
Final 4 questions I'd like to ask you is something I'm going to ask everyone who is on the show. The first of which being, and this is obviously division specific, if you had to choose one build to run in the game, whether it's PvE, PvP, what would it be? Like, what would you land on? What would be your go-to thing?
So my comfort build is really simple, and I don't even think very good, but I enjoy playing it. And so I've got a solo DPS build, which is just the trauma talent and creeping death with pestilence and everlasting gaze.
Nice.
All red build, it melts everyone. The thing is I play with controller because I'm a dirty casual, you know. And because I'm playing with controller, I am normally aiming center chest, so I'm applying bleed to just, you know, a person every 30 seconds, and then all of their friends, because I've got creeping death on there.
Yep.
And then if I'm ever in close trouble, I aim high, and they're blind, and all of their friends are blind.
There we go, lights out.
And that's it, lights out, and then I'll run away, or I'll use an armor kit. I'm always running that with a turret, an assault turret, to be my backup friend. And I'm running with Banshee, so that I can just knock everyone down who's in front of me.
Yeah, that's a great build. That's so great.
Yeah, and I run it with the gunner specialization because I want that infinite supply of ammunition.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's even better too. Yeah, that's a good point. My whole thing is
and I need the armor on kill because I have no armor.
Right, because I was going to say all red, you're kind of going glass cannon there, but
it's surprisingly durable, just as long as you have every one of my pieces of equipment has armor on kill. So I sink into that, and so I just kill 2 guys, or I go, oh shoot, here's a yellow and I'm kind of low on, here's an elite, I'm kind of low on health, spot a red guy, cap a red guy in the head because they'll only take 1 shot if you're doing it right, and then turn and pay my attention to the guy in front of me.
I love it. Yeah, and there's so much build diversification in this game. You can run anything, I just love it. I absolutely love it. So
I do. I do have a since I'm the only person on the interview, I'm going to plug 2 other builds that I love a lot.
Please do.
If I'm doing Summit, because Summit's all close quarters, I run Hunter's Fury with Scorpio because
I'm sorry to interrupt. I never ran with a shotgun ever. Before Scorpio, Hunter's Fury, you throw in the memento. I can't put that down.
I've got to say this. This is I can't remember who I'm going to be stealing this quote from. But if you've got a game with shotguns and nobody's using them, you've done something wrong. Shotguns are the most fun video game gun.
Insane.
And so I'm glad that the Scorpio, I realize the Scorpio is like definitively OP. It fits into every single person's arsenal. Same with Memento. Both of those are like, they're not mandatory. Like, as I said, my comfort build uses neither of them.
Yeah, but to continue with what you were saying, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying, Hunter's Fury, Scorpio shotgun, you were saying.
Hunter's Fury, Scorpio shotgun, you walk into a room, if you're next to a spawn closet, it's not a problem, it's a benefit. You shoot everyone. I'm doing that with the fire starter spec to get that rad shield and to occasionally hit people with a flamethrower, because once again, flamethrowers are fun.
It's fun to use.
And then I do play around with rigor or rigor without rigor. So rigor is play with the rigor set and then use like an assault drone and a sniper turret. And then sometimes I will use Empress International and Hannah U instead of rigor, and that becomes the way to do it. But it's just a comforting skill build. You hide behind a box. The sniper turret kills everyone, although you're like really engaged with it. And you've got the assault drone to go around kind of doing a constant pressure on people.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's like you feel like, okay, I really like Mobile Suit Gundam. And the thing that's happening in that moment is you go funnels, and suddenly everybody's being shot by other robots, and it's wonderful.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so great. I love those builds too. Yeah, those are fantastic. Next one is this. Have you ever gone rogue in the dark? Like you're playing on your own. Have you ever gone rogue in the dark zone and just taken someone's stuff before?
I have not. I don't
Either
do it. I do like, so if I'm in the dark zone, I am there to PvP. I like the loop, actually. To be fair, I actually really like the loop of get stuff. I am now carrying it. If I die, I'm going to drop it. I need to get to an extraction point to cash out. I love push your luck mechanics. I play more roguelikes than I should. I used to have a streaming show called Rogue Life where I would play roguelikes. Like, I love it, and I love that pressure. And I like rogue hunting only because they are there to fight, and they're there to fight right now. And there's nothing like, hey, if they're in a group and I'm playing solo, I'm dead. There's just not a chance in hell. I'm playing with a controller, for God's sake. And secondly, I don't make PvP builds very often. I read the build reports and see what people are building.
I'm this exact same way.
I'm a script kiddie, but with gear builds. When it comes to that, I make my PvE builds because I design that shit. I'm great at it. But then I'm rarely on meta. I just decide to see if the rogues can take it, and then normally lose and die. But I'm not farming in the dark zone. You can.
You're there for the PvP aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I'm going to farm, I'm going to go do control points. It's what they're there for.
Yeah, that's my thing. Control points, bounties. It's the best. I love it. I love it. Next one is this. Now, this is kind of a segue. We were just talking about PvP. And for me, the answer is yes, because of PvP. Have you ever come close to, or ever like I don't want to say rage quit the game, but when you're like, you know what, I cannot play anymore at this point. Like, I'm done. Like, for me, it's been during PvP. I just can't deal. Has that ever happened to you?
It was, but of course it wasn't about PvP. It was literally the day of Warlords of New York launch, and I walked in and I found the dog, and the dog said interact instead of pet dog.
And that just drove you to madness.
I hit Alt F4. I stepped away from my computer. I was just like, you're fucking kidding me. It doesn't say so pet funny. Dog. Can I pet the dog Twitter account exists because of Division 2.
That is
and
absolutely
it doesn't
amazing.
Say pet dog.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Finally, final question, my friend. Besides the Division, obviously, you know, it's a game that we all love. For you personally, can you name a game that changed how you looked at video games entirely? Just something that really stuck with you and just really had an impact on gaming for you?
I saw a race of Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Edition, and it changed my entire life.
Really?
So like,
I'm aware of the game, but I'm not super familiar with it.
So Final Fantasy IV is the second best Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VI is the best one. But Final Fantasy IV is real good. It's got Kain, it's got Cecil, it's got love and betrayal, and it was the first time they used a real-time turn system, which was really flawed but very cool. And what people have done is an online modding community has taken it and turned it into a randomizer. Where it's called Free Enterprise because you start at Baron Castle, you are given the Enterprise, which is the first airship in the game, and you need to find a way to get to Zeromus. You started at level 1. They've got all sorts of weird modifier flags that you can put on it. So it's like all items sell for nothing, or all of the items are really good, or the bosses are, the boss locations are randomized, the key items are randomized. Are there extra party characters? Can you have duplicates of party characters? All sorts of stuff. And just going, hey, you know what, if you build the core of your game right, so that things can be interchanged well, like, that is absolutely not what Final Fantasy IV's developers were setting out to do. They had no idea this thing was going to happen in the future. But if you build it right, and your fundamentals are good enough, you can make something that a person can play a million times over without any incentive system built in. Where it's just the joy of playing this thing is enough, and you don't have any meters going up because the game doesn't have that.
It's just not there. It's the sheer enjoyment of the game itself.
And so right now, the Lally-Ho League tournament is going on the Final Fantasy Free Enterprise community. Like 100 streamers basically have gotten together, and they're running the game in a elimination tournament until they get to a champion, and they do this twice a year. And I watch I watch hundreds of hours of this game. I listen to it on the background. I love when people tell the story of, oh, who's on the throne of Baron Castle tonight? Ah, the imposter is not a turtle. It is in fact three dark imps in a trench coat. And it's amazing because you can tell that the narrative level of the game was enough that people can make jokes about the narrative.
Right.
The format was enough that you can be surprised after playing the game 100 times, even if you hit the same permutation where it's astronomically unlikely, but okay, the same boss in the same position as the last time you played, that becomes a funny joke to you because it builds its own narrative because it's iconic enough. And it's just amazing. And then the other thing that the reason that it changed my actual life is that was when I was first talking to my friends about coming out, of saying, hey, I'm a trans woman. And then here I saw this community where trans people and people with neo pronouns and people who are non-binary are all just, they're commentating, they're running, they're involved in every level of this game and in this community, and they're out and they're open about it, and nobody gives them shit, and people who do give them shit are gone.
Good.
And that's not something I see a lot of. And that's the sort of grim thing of being a woman who grew up on the internet is I've seen the bad corners of the internet.
Right.
And it's just such a welcoming place. And it was like, hey, here's a place that I can come out and I can be myself. And I needed to find those places, and they were there at the right time.
That's incredible. That's so great. And that's so great to hear it. And one thing about this game, the game you've, helped create, is that from my experience, just from talking to different people online, it's one of those things where there's such a sense of community, of people working together and putting the gameplay aside, talk cosplay, photography, people just truly enjoying their company, the company of others, excuse me. And more importantly, there's a lot of acceptance. And while, of course, in any game, there's that toxic aspect, in this one, it just seems to me that the majority is just really great people who really help each other out.
It is. It's really incredible. I love seeing like somebody being like, hey, I want to get into cosplay, but how the hell do I make the radio brick? Right. Somebody being like, here's how hey, pay me $30 and I'll just send you a new printout of the plastic shell, or, or even just, hey, I have an old one. And just people just help out. Oh, where did you find the thing that you put your patch in to be your shoulder patch? How did you make the watch? And, sometimes people show you, hey, here's the 40-hour process of making the watch custom. And you're like, thanks, bud. That's really cool.
Okay.
But then somebody shows you, and here's how you can modify the $2 Casio Kids watch.
Right.
You're like,
yes, this is what I'm talking about. And it, on the first episode of the series, I talked to, a few content creators, and they were talking about helping each other out, helping people out with builds. And one of the people I spoke with, Agent Melee, was talking about with cosplay. And when he first started off, the one thing he kept saying was, went to the community, people helping each other out, starting off with something, asking questions. And it's just great to be involved in such an amazing community.
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible. So the community that I'm engaged with in Division is the Reddit community. I sit there and I lurk. I find it hilarious every time I comment, and nobody has ever marked me as a massive response. Which I guess is just begging for people to find it. But
right, there we go. Guess what's happening now?
Guess what's happening now? It's like when I talked about the Hive boss in the Pain or whatever they were named in the damn zoo.
Right.
But that's where I am, and even that's mostly relentless positivity. It's Reddit. It's a nasty site. But it's incredible that Reddit is built to highlight drama. That is what Reddit is there to do. That's how their system works.
Right.
And yet it's still generally a lot of people looking to support each other and posting cool photos of their latest photo shoot. Or oh, here's stuff I did in game, or this amazing video of people doing the raid and all having corrosive chem launchers and just making the two robot dogs that have to be kept at the same health just to die in like 3 seconds. And I was like,
it's amazing. I love it.
Perfect.
It's so great. And to finish this up, it's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on, and I always would say this, I would always say, first and foremost, anytime you were on State of the Game, I knew it was going to be amazing because you bring so much energy and excitement and passion to the community. More importantly, I just wanted to, and again, this is just my saying this, but so many people in the community, and I'm sure you know this, but I want to reiterate it, just appreciate you, love the work you do. We're thankful that you're a part of creating this amazing universe. And, on behalf of so many people out there, I just really want to thank you once again for taking the time and speaking with me today.
You're welcome. And thank you. Whichever one of those is appropriate right now.
It's true story. No, I mean, it really is, the community loves you. And it's so great to
it's really wild. I actually still feel guilty about one of my earliest sort of community responses is somebody saw me on State of the Game and sent me a message that was like, hey, your gender isn't on your Twitter profile, and nobody used a pronoun to describe you in the interview. Mm-hmm. What's your gender? And of course, this is me at my time, like calling around to clinics to find out how to do HRT and going like, shit, I can't commit to this right now. I'm going to ghost on this message.
Yeah, just and like I'm going to say nothing. Well, no, but look, everyone has their own journey, and it just everyone loves you. Like that's it. I'm ending it with that. I'm hanging up. No, like so many people, people appreciate you, appreciate your work. It's amazing, and sincerely thankful for all that you do, you've done, you continue to do. I would like to ask, as I said earlier. Mm-hmm. I have so many questions I want to ask you in regards to the game, and I know I can't, and I know you're unable to answer them at this point. Would love to hopefully get to chat with you again as we get closer to whatever is on the horizon. I know there's a bunch of buzz online. Everyone's excited. So hopefully we will get to chat again soon. And like I said, I did record this, so this one is at least good to go. Once again, Trick, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you. Same.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. And that, my friends, is going to bring us to the end of the episode. As always, I want to thank you again for your continued support. Your feedback in regards to this series has been absolutely amazing. If you happen to be new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to be a part of our gaming family. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well. But most importantly, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.